on Jesus, all things are possible. I can mount on wings like eagles and soar. When I call on Jesus, mountains are gonna fall. 'Cause he'll move heaven and earth to come rescue me when I call.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome, welcome, welcome to another It Is Possible Tuesdays with Sanya. I have a very special guest with me, someone I've known for, well, it's almost 2 decades. And I have found her to be a resolute person. She has an interesting story to share with us, and I know that you will be blessed and inspired. But as usual, let us start off the right way. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans for prosperity and not for disaster, to give you a future and a hope. But Jesus beheld them and said unto them, with men this is impossible, but with God all things are possible. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, good evening. Welcome to my guest. Lovely smile, lovely personality, and I will allow her to tell her name and where she was born.
Okay, thank you so much for having me, Sonia. My name is Shireen Forrest, and I was born in the beautiful island of Jamaica.
Fantastic. Now, you're born in Jamaica, but where in particular would you say is your foundation? Where did you grow up?
Okay, I grew up in West Rural St. Andrew, more particularly Stony Hill. I believe my parents moved there when I was 2 years old, and I lived there until I got married. I stayed there for 1 year with my husband, saving to buy our own home, and then we moved to St. Thomas before I migrated to Canada, where I currently reside.
Okay, so you've given us quite a lot of information there, but I want to go back a little bit and talk about Stony Hill. Now, most people, even though you said rural St. Andrew, most people are thinking Stony Hill, that is posh area, man. That is rich people area. Tell me about school and growing up. What was life like?
Life was very interesting. I went to micro practicing all-aid school, which is in Crossroads, because my mother worked downtown at the tax office, and my father was a freelance accountant. And from there, I passed my common entrance. I think I was the last batch of common entrance, and I passed for my first choice, which was the Queen's School. They call it Queen's High School, but it's actually the Queen's School.
The Queen's
And
School.
yes, and so I lived in Stony Hill and I'd commute to Queens, which is in Constant Spring. And then after fifth form, I wanted to go to a co-ed school. So I chose Arden and Meadowbrook, but I got through for Meadowbrook, which wasn't so bad because Meadowbrook is in Manningsville, which is also not too
Close.
far from Stony Hill. Yes. So I call it rural because I grew up with lots of cats and dogs and goats. And I remember at one point there was a donkey, but he didn't last, I didn't last too long. But it's known as West Rural St. Andrew, but it's not
Yes.
country, but it's not under the clock.
Yes, it's in the hills, definitely. So you had a panoramic view of the
Oh,
city. Now, are you an only child or do you have siblings?
no, I have a sister. She's older than me, so it's just two of us.
Yes, yes. And what
Yeah.
was that like? Sibling rivalry or just a wonderful relationship with just a few bumps in the road?
I think there was sibling rivalry. I'm the younger of the two. I would say we are very different. My sister is like white and I'm black. My sister is a saint and I'm the rebel. My sister is night and I'm day. She's oil and I'm water. But as we got older, I found that our relationship got better, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah, yeah.
So we did
It's
have,
interesting. It's interesting that you have said that you're the rebel because I would never ever have associated the word rebel with you. Why have you seen yourself as the rebel?
I see, I consider myself to be the rebel because my father would have give us a curfew. You need to be back in his house by 10 o'clock. And I'm like, Daddy, the event starts at 10 o'clock. Whilst my sister, she have absolutely no interest in going anywhere or doing anything. I was the one who wanted to go out with friends and explore, that kind of thing, so
Yeah.
she didn't have any boyfriends. I did. So my parents always said, why you can't be like your sister? But I wasn't,
Yeah.
and I couldn't
Yes.
be, and I didn't
Yeah.
mind not being like her.
Yeah. How did this rebel streak manifest itself as a student?
As a student, I don't think it did because I was very focused on school. I can recall very vividly in my mind when I was in at Queens doing CXC. And at the time, we had children's own, and you'd get some tips on how to prepare for CXC. And I had a group of friends, and we decided to call each other to study. And I got a call from one friend. She got up, I got up, and I called another one, and she said to me, I have my beauty sleep. I can't get up right now. And then I called another one, and she told me the same thing. So I got up and I studied, and I can recall seeing my father moving from his bedroom to the kitchen, staggering, tired, just to get a glass of water from the fridge. And when I looked at my father and I saw him, I was like, wow, I can't waste my parents' money.
Mhm.
I can't be that child who goes to class and wastes time, don't do the homework. I can't be that child. And so I was not rebel in that sense. I went by the book and I studied. And I got my CXCs. Only, as a matter of fact, only two of us, the ones who got up to study, actually got good grades and could move on without having to repeat anything.
Yes, yes, yes. It calls to mind that poem that we learned at school. Heights of great men reached and kept were not attained by sudden flight, but they, while their companions slept, were toiling
Going
onward
through
through
the
the night.
night. Yes.
And has that um attitude followed you through to university and into the world of work?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. From I was 6 years old, I wanted to be a lawyer. And when I completed CXCs, my father said, listen, it just started, Shireen. You think you can go, I'm finished now. And I said, all right. And I went on to University of the West Indies where I did history and international relations. And then after that, I went on to study with the University of London to do my Bachelor's of Laws degree. And it was hard. I can tell you, I chose the program where I was supposed to complete in 2 years, where I was supposed to do 9 courses, and I did
Mhm.
4 and 3,
Yeah.
4 and 5. Yes.
Five.
And I failed the first year. And that was like a big hit for me. Yes, because we studied in 3 groups. I failed, another one, she failed as well, but she had to leave, and one didn't want to become a lawyer. She was just doing the LLB. And I can recall when I wanted to do the resit, I got up every night writing out the notes because I realized that that's how I learned. You have to know how you
Yeah.
learn, right? Some people learn by
Yes. Your
listening.
learning
I
style.
see. Yeah, I learn by writing. So it's like writing the thing in my brain. So when I close my
Yes.
eyes, sometimes in the exams, I can see it and I can say, okay, this was at the bottom of the page. This was to the right of the page, So that helped me a lot. With focusing on what I wanted to be. It wasn't easy. It was hard. And I'll tell you more as we go on until I became a lawyer here in Canada.
Yeah. So I am sure that that taste of failure must have been like a dash of cold water. Had you failed anything before?
I did. I failed my first time at my common entrance, but that was nothing. I was in grade 5. You don't really
Yeah.
understand life and the importance of getting good grades if you want to have a
Yeah,
certain
yeah, yeah.
quality of life, you know.
Yes.
But it was like a dash of cold water. I remember the teacher saying, Miss Monroe, failure is a lonely road. Failure is a lonely road, and I felt it. I felt it to the core.
Sure. Yeah.
So I did go on to fail other things, but one
Yeah.
thing I didn't do was give up.
Beautiful. I like that. I like that. So for you, failure was not final.
No,
It- would you how would you present failure to a young person who has met failure for the first time? What would you say to them?
I would tell them, this is a conversation I have with my son all the time because he likes to give up the first time. I'm like, Joshua, usually most people don't get it at the first shot. Don't give up.
Yes.
Look at
Yeah.
most of the inventions in this world, their mistakes and their failures. That's how they come about. So
Yes.
failure, although it's a devastating thing, it's a beautiful thing. It's something to teach you to grow. It's something to
Yeah.
learn from. Because if you keep getting it all the time, are you really learning? And it
Yeah.
gives you some kind of humility to be able to understand what somebody is experiencing because you've been there and you can empathize. You can give good advice and words of encouragement. But if you've never experienced it, nobody's going to
Yes.
understand what you're saying. You can't resonate with anybody.
Yes. Yes, yes. That's interesting. Failure is something beautiful. I don't think I've ever heard it presented like that before, but it's an interesting take because quite often young people in general, want to give up the first time they fail without recognizing that it is an opportunity for them to go back and improve on what they had done before. So you failed, you were successful at UE, then you came to London and you failed and you said, I'm not taking this line down. I'm going to go back to the drawing board. And then what happened? What was
I
what was
passed.
next?
I buckled down and I passed. And
Yes.
then I graduated, and that's how I was introduced to you because I was given the opportunity to go to my graduation in England.
Yes,
My father's
yes,
like, we're taking this opportunity. We're gonna go.
yes,
And I'm like, okay.
yes, yes.
And so we
And
did.
I have it, and I was always impressed with how you were always calm, but there was a strong sense of assurance about you. Um, People might see you as small and petite, but I recognize that you were a powerhouse. A quiet authority was there. So you graduated, you went back to Jamaica, and then you're a fancy lawyer. Everything took off.
Yes, it did. Actually, because I was an external student, I had to
Yes.
do an examination to get into Norman Manley Law School.
Ah,
Because I didn't go to Cave Hill, the students who go to Cave Hill have automatic entrance into the school. And I
yes.
can recall this again. I studied with my friend, and she said, I don't feel I'm going to pass, and I don't want them to have any record of me failing. I'm like, listen, I can't face my father money. Going back right back to it. I can't face my father money. I'm gonna try. If I fail, fine. At least I have the experience of what it's like.
Yes.
And I went and I passed in Jesus' name. I did, and I got into
Yes.
Norman Manley Law School. Yes.
Fantastic. But
Mm-hmm.
you know what, Shireen? I'm very curious. You went to UWE and then you went to London. Why not Cave Hill? Why all the way to London?
I didn't think I had the grades to get in. Wait, to get to Cave Hill, you have to have like ones and A's and everything. So, and I wanted a first degree first. I didn't, if
Yes.
you went to Cave Hill, you would have had to, well, not everybody do it that way, but fresh out of high
Yeah.
school, you could do the LLB with UWE. Because the UWE, that's the program. It's just that 1 year is done in Jamaica, two
Jamaica
years.
and the
Cave
other,
Hill.
yeah,
Right.
Cave Hill.
So I didn't explore that route any at all. And I don't know why I didn't, but I just didn't.
Yeah. But, but you haven't regretted it, have you?
No, absolutely
Oh,
not.
because you became an international student, so you had a different experience to bring to Norman Manley when you went to Norman Manley. And what was that experience like?
Oh, it was phenomenal. It was amazing. The lecturers were good. Some of my classmates are still my very good friends of today. Just imagine having 350 lawyers at your
Yes,
fingertips because you
yes,
went to school with them. It was a good experience.
yes,
What I liked about the law school is that it wasn't only focused on academics. At
yes,
the time, my principal was Stephen Bassiani. You don't know Stephen
yes,
Bassiani?
yes, yes, yes,
He's
yes,
like one of the most academic and renowned minds in Jamaica.
yes, yes,
And he had a vision for the students. So I can recall we had events where he would say, when you become lawyers, you're gonna be having interviews and meetings with clients. And most times it may not be in an office, it may be
yes,
around lunch. And so he'd
yes,
have functions for us by the Mona Visitors Lodge where you have to learn to use the utensils properly, have
yes,
proper posture, and it made you an all-rounder. And in addition to that, there is a program, an annual program that's put on by the Norman Manley Law School that's called Silk. Silk is
mm.
the robe, the
Yes, yes,
material for
it's
the robe that Queen's Counsel now King's Council, because
Council,
it's a
yes.
thing now, where,
Mhm.
right? So I participated in that. I did a sign language, I danced, I did lots of stuff. So it gave you it taught you how not just to be academic. You
Yes.
there are extracurricular activities that got you involved in different things. So that was a
Yeah.
phenomenal experience.
Fantastic. You've said something that has piqued my interest. Sign
What's that?
language. Sign
Yes.
language. So what level are you in terms of sign language? And how did you become involved in sign language?
No, the thing is, I don't think I'm at a level really. It's just that that was a piece being put on during the program, and I had an
Yeah.
interest in learning. As a matter of fact, if I could learn it right now, I would, because I think it's an asset. I think it's a good thing.
Fantastic.
I think
Yes.
it break down barriers between people, so that you can communicate.
Yes, yes, yes.
Mhm.
I am interested in sign language. I do have a level two British Sign Language, and it's something that I very much am an advocate for. And so I'm always interested when there's somebody who is interested in sign language or signing, or, because I do believe that the members of the deaf community need a little bit more visibility. And I think we need to advocate for their presence and their voice.
Yes.
So you had a phenomenal time at Norman Manley. You have developed your relationships with your colleagues, and you finished law school. Did you go into your own business then? Was that the idea, or you thought, I need to work with somebody first, or I'm just gonna do my own thing?
No, actually, I went to work with a firm for 1 year. And the thing about Jamaica legal system, as the educational aspect of it, is that we don't have an articling system like other jurisdictions. So you learn in law school, you do 10 weeks of internship at a place of your choosing, and then you're called to the bar. So having called to the bar, I went to work with a firm in Kingston that had offices all over the country. And whilst I was there, I was getting proofing from judges. I was learning on the job. I was learning sometimes with little guidance. Here's a file, go to court, so on, so on. So I'm like, okay. And I went. And after a while, I'm like, hey, but I can do this. I can do this for myself. So after 1 year, I did own my own practice on Duke Street. I went on my own and I worked for that entire period until I migrated to Canada.
Wow, that is big steps. That
Yes.
is big steps. And I want you to tell me a little bit more about, you've said that in Jamaica there's no articling as in other countries. Give me a little bit more information about that. And why is that so?
I don't know why it's so in Jamaica, but what it really is when you are, before you're called to the bar in Canada here, and perhaps in England, there's an articling period that you have to go through where you work under a lawyer, where you get actual hands-on experience and guidance on how to do things.
Yes, yes,
But
yes.
in Jamaica, you just sit the bar exam and then you go into practice, right?
And you hit the ground running.
Yes, you sink or you swim.
And you did more than swim. You took it by storm. And
Yes,
and
I did.
and how that must have been a lot for your self-confidence.
Yes, it did a lot for my self-confidence because it taught me that I could do it.
Yes.
Even though, to be candid with you, 80% of my files were criminal law, legal aid. I can remember my very first matter, I was just sitting in court observing, and the guy just got up and said, I just can plead guilty, y'all. And the prosecutor and the judge was like, what? And I was the only lawyer that's sitting in the court, and the prosecutor turned around and said, Miss Forrest, you want that? You want that? Do the sentencing for me? I was like, I don't know what to do. He's like, ask for this, ask for that, ask for this. And I asked for all the things that he asked, the social inquiry report, antecedent. And I said to him, will the community have good things to say about you? And he said, yes. And I said, all right. And I went to the library and I prepared. And I set the date. So when the day come, oh, jeez, on Father. When I saw the antecedent report, they didn't want him back in the community. I was thrown a curveball and I just, okay.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I just spoke on his behalf. And when I was done, the judge said, "Oh, Miss Forrest, if I would want you to speak at my funeral because you can make anybody sound like a saint." Mhm,
Awesome.
mhm.
Awesome. Were you shaking in your boots?
I was, I was, but it gave me the confidence to take on more, which I did.
Yeah. So have you done any cases that we would know about, or any cases that you thought, you know what? This is a challenging one, but I'm going to take it on.
They're usually all challenging.
Yes. Yes.
In Jamaica, yes, I did do a rape case, and I won that case on the closing. I reminded them
Wow.
of Joseph, the jury. Yeah, I
Wow.
reminded them of Joseph, and I won it.
Wow.
Hmm.
Wow. So,
Hmm.
just for our audiences who don't know who Joseph is, tell us the link.
Joseph was the 12th son of Jacob, and he was sold into slavery by his jealous brothers. And when he went to Egypt, he was falsely accused of raping Potiphar's wife. He did not. So not because
Wow.
everybody says it happened, that doesn't
It
mean
has-
it did.
yeah. Wow. I would be terrified. I
Hmm.
would be terrified. But of course, I'm speaking as a layman. You're speaking as a person who has expertise, knowledge, and experience. And so you would have brought that to the fore and spoken on behalf of your client. You've been in you had your practice after 1 year. How long did you remain in Jamaica in your practice before migrating? And what was the push factor to migrate?
Okay. I practiced for 4 years after working with the firm for 1 year. So in total, I worked for 5 years as a lawyer. Um, I don't know, my husband at the time was with the Jamaica Defense Force. And we just decided that, perhaps it may be good to migrate to a country where there's a crime and violence, do something that would perhaps add some life expectancy to your life. Because there are times when
Yeah.
I would drive home and I'd have to circle my gate, just wondering if anybody's following me. I mean, Jamaica's a lovely country. Don't say not
It
to
is.
bad about Jamaica to me.
No, exactly,
But
exactly.
but it does have, problems like what you have everywhere. And so
Yeah,
we decided to try, and it has worked out so far.
yeah,
So really
yeah,
and truly, it was the crime and violence that was a push factor. If Jamaica
yeah,
just gets rid of that, I think everybody would,
yeah,
perhaps.
yeah. Yeah. So, how have you, one, paid it forward, and two, um, reach behind you
What do
in
you mean,
your,
paid forward?
so are you mentoring anyone? Are you developing anyone in Canada, in Jamaica? How are you bringing your life experience to others outside of the
Unfortunately,
courtroom?
outside of the courtroom, I'm very active in my church.
Ah,
And as an older person with years of experience as a young person and the things that I went through, I
yeah,
find that I have a way of how do I put it? I can I can understand what they're going through. I can empathize with them. I
yes,
can
yes,
speak to them. Some
yeah,
some older folks forgot that they were young. They
yeah,
forgot that
yeah,
they made these same mistakes and they behave as though they
yes,
were perfect. So that
yeah.
is how I mentor people, young people in my church.
Imagine, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's how I do
So,
it.
so you've been in Canada for how long now?
8 years.
8 years. And you do you mind telling us which church you attend in Canada?
Sure, I attend Kendallwood Seventh-day Adventist Church in Whitby, Ontario.
All right. And see, you said you are active in your church. Give me an idea of some of the things that you do in your church, um, and the impact that has had on the congregation.
Oh, the congregation? I don't know about the congregation. But whenever the young people put on a program, it's usually not supported by the older folks, unfortunately.
Wow.
So that is something I always try to attend their programs if it's at AY or some kind of gathering, I attend, I give my views. If it is that they need any assistance with anything, I'm very easy to talk to. I pride myself in being very easy to talk to.
Yes.
What else? My children are a part of the children's ministry, and I also assist in that department as
Yes.
well.
Yes.
Recently, they've asked me if I could work with the women's department,
Yes.
and that's
Yeah.
something I am, I'm very eager to get into. I'd love to do something every month, but then my husband's like,
Yes.
I'm gonna burn yourself out, probably every
Yes.
quarter, because there's so many issues and
Yes.
challenges, and sometimes
Yes.
people are quiet, they're suffering quietly,
Yes.
and many of us are going through the same thing. And if somebody's just willing to speak out,
Yes.
we could
Yes.
help each other more.
Yeah. Two things that are happening with women, and I'd like to find out your views as a younger, older person. So the first one is mental health, and that's mental health with women, but mental health within the Black community. That's the first one. I'd like your views on. And the second one is menopause within the Black community, but within the Black community and the church.
Okay. So mental health and
Yeah.
menopause. Okay. To be quite frank with you, I think the Black community were in denial about mental health issues.
Mhm.
I think it stems from the fact that it's not something that there's much information on in the Caribbean. And I don't know if they're catching up to what's happening currently in modern day, but I find that they're behind. When I tell somebody, this is a mental health concern, anxiety, depression, you need to seek counseling, you need to talk to somebody, they'll tell you, oh, I'm fine. I can just pray, or. So I find that we haven't accepted it yet or caught up to the world in terms of mental health for the Black community. It is there, and we suffer. All of us suffer from it.
Mhm.
As it pertains to menopause, my mother always tell me, you come in, you will know.
Yes, 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 yes.
And
I,
I've been around women who have the hot flashes, and they tell me they can't sleep. But I'm always interested in it, to hear their experiences, because I know one day I'll be going through the same thing, and I don't know
yeah.
how the effects it will have on me, and the help that's out there. I heard that you can use Primrose. I don't know anything about Primrose. I probably need to research it. I don't know how good it is,
Mhm.
but
Mhm.
I don't have that experience yet to
Mhm.
be able to
Mhm.
answer your question adequately. All I can speak from is from somebody else's perspective.
Yeah, yeah. But let me, on that basis, let me ask you then, do you think the church is doing enough to inform or to share information or to create awareness around menopause and and the Black woman?
I don't think it is, because it's not something that you see in terms of programs that are put on to assist them. And
Mhm.
I don't know if it's something that is taboo to speak about.
Mhm.
There are certain topics that the congregation shy away from, and perhaps menopause is one of them, you know. So it would be good to raise awareness, as you said, about these things, put on seminars, put on programs, um, find some doctor to come in and talk about it, or some herbal person to come and talk about it. But I don't know why they don't talk about it.
Yeah, yeah. So there's your platform for women's ministry.
Thank you, thank you. Yes, menopause was one of them.
Yes. So, so I want to find out, Shireen, your journey from Stony Hill to Canada to where you are now. If you were to share with someone, what would you say has made it clear to you that life or where you are, it is possible?
Possible. Um, you know, Failing so many times and getting back up. That's the first thing that
Yes.
tells me it is possible.
Yeah.
When you fail and you try again and you're successful, it tells you it's possible. When you trust
Yeah.
God and His words, He tells you it is possible. When you depend on him, it tells you it's possible. Where I am now, right now in Canada, I was called to the bar. I articled with a firm for 1 year. I chose to article because as external
Yeah.
lawyers, I didn't have to article. But I wanted that Canadian experience, and I worked as a federal crown in court every single day, separate and apart from Remembrance Day or Truth and Reconciliation Day when the courts were closed. So I was in court every
Mhm.
day. And then I decided, having been called, to open my own office. So right now, we're sitting in my own office, Forest Law Practice in Canada.
Well done.
Yes. So that tells you that it is possible. It doesn't matter the color of your skin. It doesn't matter your gender. It doesn't matter the challenges that you have. Just keep trying. You know, life is gonna knock you down. People will say things like, I always remember my father telling me the story about some rats that were climbing a hill. And there was this rat, the rats kept falling out of the race. And there was this rat who made it to the top of the race. You know why the rat made it to the top of the race? Have you heard the story before? The rat was deaf.
Yes, I know it as a frog.
Oh, you know,
Yes.
it has a frog. Okay. Was deaf.
Yes.
So that means silence the naysayers around you. Don't listen. It is possible. With God, all things are possible. Just trust him. And if you have good friends who give you good encouragement, listen to them. You know, read your Bible. Sometimes God is talking to you right in the Bible.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
So if I can do it, anybody can.
Yeah. Did you envision yourself where you are when you were 6 years old? Is this what
Absolutely
you
not.
saw?
No, absolutely not. Sometimes I'm on the highway driving at 120 and I'm like, am I in Canada, Lord? On this highway? 401? Really? Yeah, I
You look
didn't.
back at yourself and you're saying, God is good. He has brought me this far. And and
Yes.
and and, and you know, there's, as I keep saying, there's a quiet assurance about you. There's a strength that is, it's just calm, but there's no way that anybody can underestimate who you are. In spite of the soft tone that you use and the quiet sound of your voice, there is a strength there that I think people have recognized. And the very fact that you now have your own firm in Canada, having done it in Jamaica, now you're overseas and you're doing it. Girl, it is indeed possible.
Yeah.
So you have your own firm, and how many people do you have working for you?
I have
Okay.
one working for me right now.
Yeah. And that now, do you plan to expand?
Of
Do you plan
course.
to? Okay. So you have a 5-year plan in
Yes, I'm
mind?
trying to flourish. Yes, I'd
Yes.
love one day to employ other lawyers, even more clerks
Yes.
to assist me. You know,
Yes.
I see this office as God's office. This is his firm. He's my senior counsel. He is my helmsman and captain. And every
Yes.
time I open this door to come in, I'm like, and Holy Spirit, I invite you to come in today. Give me
Yes.
wisdom and knowledge, understanding. Tell me what to say. This is you are my senior counsel. And sometimes I say, okay, sit beside me, Lord, and guide me. Guide me as a child, you
Yes.
know? I just trust him and don't be afraid. A lot of people say, Shane, you gone off on your own. You're not afraid. I'm like, yeah, but sometimes the fear of jumping is keeps you back than the thing itself. So
Yes.
go for it.
Oh, Shireen, it it has been a short, sweet pleasure talking with you. And I know that people will be impressed and motivated and inspired by you. Thank you very much for being my guest today on It Is Possible Tuesdays with Sanya. I am I am beyond elated to have finally caught you for us to have a little chat. Thank you very much for being my guest today. Ladies and gentlemen, my guest. It's been wonderful. I'm so happy to have had you. Thank you for coming. And I'd like to remind my audience, be a dreamer, a doer, a thinker. See possibility everywhere. Because you're alive, everything is possible. But Jesus beheld them and said unto them, with men, this is impossible, but with God, all things are possible. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you and see you next time on It is Possible Tuesdays with Sanya.
When I call on Jesus, all things are possible. I can mount on wings like eagles and soar. When I call on Jesus, mountains are gonna fall. 'Cause he'll move heaven and earth to come